Everyone, it's Tiffany Asamoah, founder and designer of Bold Swim, and welcome back to another season of Bold Swim's Off the Rack podcast, season 4, the space where we go beyond the clothes and into the systems, the strategy, and the stories shaping the future of fashion. Today's guest is someone who's influenced Ghana's fashion landscape for an entire decade. Just let that sink in. He is the founder of one of Accra's largest and most impactful fashion blogs and the producer behind Accra Fashion Week, a platform that has grown into a global stage for designers, models, and creative talent from across the continent and beyond. This year marks 10 years of building, documenting, and elevating Ghanaian fashion culture. And if you were at this year's Accra Fashion Week like we were, you felt the shift, the scale, the global representation, and the storytelling that drove the momentum. It's a moment that ties both our worlds together, and I'm excited not to unpack just the celebration, but the work behind it. In this conversation, we get into the founder story, the evolution of the platform, the business of fashion in Ghana, and what sustainability and global competitiveness looks like from someone who has been shaping the narrative from day one. So let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Nana, the visionary behind a decade of fashion storytelling and the force driving Accra Fashion Week forward. So take it away. Why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Well, first, you did an amazing introduction. I really appreciate that. So I'm obviously Nana. I'm the CEO of Accra Fashion Week and Fashion Ghana as well. We started Fashion Ghana 2012. Initially, it was meant to be an online shop. 2012 was before the times of Instagram and in fact, those times there wasn't really any fashion blogs in Africa. We were the first African fashion blog. There were one or two, but they weren't really African fashion. They were just sort of like entertainment with fashion in it. So we started that with the purpose of quite a few things. One of the main ones was to have an online shop where people abroad could buy African dresses, clothes, and what have you. So we had an online shop. And another thing was to really push fashion, African fashion, to the international scene. So when we started that, we were in absence of Instagram. And those times, Facebook was very private. So we were literally like the window to Africa for a lot of people who would go online and want to see what's going on in Africa. We were like the window of African culture, African music, African fashion. And we just blew up massively with Fashion Ghana. By I think 2015, 2016, we had 1 million followers on our Facebook page. And that was without any paid promotion or any bot followers. This was generally just feeding people what they wanted to know about Africa at that particular moment. This was before they brought in all the algorithms where you have to play tricks to get seen, so we went viral. We started, and this is why you'll see that within that 2014, 15 onwards, that's when the whole African fashion trend was blowing up. That was Fashion Ghana that was given a window. So we would have websites like CNN or BBC contact us when they want to know something in South Africa or Kenya, and then before publishing. So we set that off. And then around 2016, we launched Accra Fashion Week, which we celebrated our 10th year last year with you involved. So that's technically what I'm behind. There are few other offsprings that have come off these projects. Like we have the online shop. We've got an actual physical shop in Ghana. Hopefully we'd have more shortly. And then very soon we'll be launching like an online TV as well. So that's Fashion Ghana and Accra Fashion Week together. Thank you. I'm not hearing you. I think your mic is off.
Amazing, amazing. I think you've done so well for yourself and for the brand and the team that you support. It's important. I know it's a lot on your shoulders as a leader. It's really impressive because, like you mentioned before, back in that time, people were not, discoverability alone for Africa. I'm in the States, my husband's Ghanaian. So even finding out things about his hometown without asking him a million questions, it was quite difficult. So we appreciate you in the diaspora for making discovery easier and making it easier for us to connect with our brothers and sisters in fashion. And then just see this whole world emerge where it was that day in during the show was everybody coming together like we already knew each other. And I know that you've worked with these people for quite some time and years. So kudos to you and your team for pulling that off, because it's quite impressive to do it on that scale, because it's not easy, even if you're in one city doing it multiple times over and over. So kudos to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So do you feel like this year's Fashion Week was like a turning point, like from your vantage as the CEO, producer, all the hats that you wear? What were your standout moments that signaled real growth or transformation from the industry? I mean, you talked about kind of where you came from and where you are today. Like, how do you feel from that?
I think this year's event was a very big turning point for me. It was one of the biggest turning points for me, but it wasn't in the way that I was planning it to be, and it probably wasn't the way that people would think, how one would say. It was supposed to be a turning point for me because there are a lot of other things that we've been setting up towards, like I said, there's a shop, we're working towards a TV and all those kind of things. And all these things that we've been setting up, they've been taking time away from the event and time away from the blog. And they're all almost complete. So someone would be like, you've reached 10 years, but this was actually almost like the starting point, because it's like even though you're getting a blog and you're getting a Fashion Week, there are other bits to Fashion Ghana and Accra Fashion Week that are not fully complete. So this was like, I'm just about to get started for me. So this was kind of like me looking forward to making like one of the biggest events for Accra Fashion Week, with the craziest setup. Certain things we were supposed to have there, like fire blowers on the runway. Just a very mind-blowing experience that was planned for the 10th year. And over the years, Ghana, we're very welcoming, we're very nice people, until you start doing business in Ghana. Then you then you get to understand what Ghanaians are really like. There's a lot of envy. There's a lot of people that see you doing what they wish they would do. So through doing this, there's been a lot of, dealing with competitors, dealing with envy, dealing with sabotagers. And I've gotten on top of that, but it got to a point where we had an issue with multiple carpenters. It's a long story, and I'll make it as brief as possible. The carpenters, not necessarily them, but for this particular show, they were the people that were going to bring visually the stage. There are other things that were, you have logistics people bringing, but the background, was so, and not just that, where the exhibition is, the entrance, the red carpet. So we had some people, we told them all the things we wanted them to do. We contacted them 3 months before. 1 week before the event, we find out that they haven't started doing anything. But it's okay, because we still have 1 week. We got another group of people to do it. And, as you know, that week was very busy. We had like a tour, a whole bunch of things. So we didn't get to really see what they were doing till Friday. And they were the ones who were going to pick up from the guys who were doing nothing and, come and fix everything. And on Friday, we realized that they hadn't done anything. So, and these are not just random services. These are people who are recommended to you by people who use them.
Right.
So on Saturday, we got someone who had a couple guys with him. He was genuine. He wanted to really do it, but I think he was trying to do more than he could.
Right.
And so just as soon as he fixed the back stage and they were about to mount it, it broke.
Oh my gosh.
It broke. And I remember thinking if I should I was honestly thinking if I've been through the stress so much over the years that I don't get stressed anymore. Now it's just a matter of, are you going to make a decision or not? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
So
were
I
so
remember
cool that day. You were so
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my.
I was just thinking, am I going to cancel or are we going to do this show? I was just like, should we cancel? Should we do it? So that's where I was. And the last minute, we managed to create a backdrop out of a sponsor's banner that was there. So at that point, when I was backstage, my mind was thinking that on the 10th year, we're doing the worst show ever. That's what my mind was telling me backstage. Like on the 10th year, we're doing the worst show ever. And then when the show was done, a photographer came and shook my hand and said, "Great show." Okay, you're a photographer, you want money, you're gonna say it's great, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for your compliment. Then another two people came, said, "Oh, the show was amazing." So I'm like, what did you guys see? And more people kept coming, and I was like, whoa, what happened? I was like, what happened? So it went well. What people saw was amazing. Now here's where the turning point is for me, coming to the question you asked. The first one showed me that it doesn't matter how many things you think you've got covered and how many things because my mind is on the competitors, the sabotagers. They come through via the designers, the models, maybe sometimes the media. But this one was like, who would think a carpenter could take down your 10th year?
Yeah.
Who would think that a normal carpenter that you see on the road nailing could take down your 10 years of hard work?
Yeah.
And so that lived with me for a long time after the event. Another turning point for me after the event was that we pulled everything so good, from the models to the presenters, the clothes by the designers, that even the things that was missing or not up to par, the audience didn't acknowledge it. So to me, that was another turning point to let us know we've gotten to the stage where our targets are so high that even when we don't meet them, people are still impressed. And it let me know that also comes from the 10 years of work. So it was mixed emotions coming out of the event. I thought I was going to come out with all the designers just like, what the hell? Like, but I think we only had one of them.
I was one of them, guys. I'm gonna be truthful. I'm still rooting for you. Like, you're here. We're working together. We're collaborating. So I definitely feel you, because no matter, like you said, no matter how much you plan for it, like there's a famous quote, and maybe you've heard it. You can have a plan until you get hit in the face, right? The whole Mike Tyson thing. So you've done an amazing job. It's no easy feat. I've never produced a fashion show. I've been at 1,001, and I know, like, even like that was the first one my husband actually just formally sat down and watched of me work. And he's like, "Oh, I guess this is how the sausage is made, because we're coming early." And I was like, "This is how it always is. This is not Ghana, not any other country. This is how it happens in the States." So I applaud you for keeping a cool head, because even though I was like, "Hey, what can I help with? I'm ready to like change my outfit to like help you." Like, and I think that's what's lovely about Great is we are pretty sensitive about the work that we put out, and especially being in business. You and I have been in business over 10 years. So coming to, for me, coming as a designer to present in this global stage is a turning point for me. I want to do you well. I want your show to be great, and I'm going to bring my best. I'm going to bring my best attitude. I'm going to make sure things are done, and whatever to pull together, because nobody wants anybody to fail, right? And I think that was what's beautiful about not only Ghana and the other countries that were there represented, but we didn't quit. And I'm glad you didn't quit, because everybody else is counting on us for this show, right? They don't know what your vision is, and they don't see it. Once everybody gets settled and they're not seeing how a fashion show is being made, and they're not watching the stage being built, people end up settling because then it was such a great time, right?
Right.
Presenters came on, they were funny, they were trying to get acclimated, and we did the best. Even for my show, there were some things that were missing, and even in the rush of trying to just making sure everything on time, we still had the best time. The girls and the models were like calling me afterwards, and like, it just a great time that
Right.
everybody
So,
felt, everybody could see it. So you
yeah.
pulled it off. You pulled it off.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's great to hear that from you. It's great to hear that from you.
I know we were like, I was like, what is like, guys? Yeah, I just wanted the show to be best. I wanted to
Yeah.
everything to be perfect. Like I told you, like I research high and low, especially when I'm putting energy and effort into anything.
Right.
And naively for my own self is like, I don't know all the things that you're going through as a producer today, and all the things that are happening. The vendors are canceling, models coming here. You've got 1,001 things. So you're right. I think everybody, once they get it, it becomes so big. You don't know what you don't know until you get to that point, and it's a learning, right?
Yeah.
It's
It is.
learning.
It is. It is.
But
I mean, now I gotta keep an extra eye on carpenters. Like I didn't know they were so. I didn't know. I had no. Like 10 years, I didn't know they were that dangerous. I just didn't know. But we know now. So.
oh yeah, anything that can happen, and like that's why I start. People end up liking me because I'm so organized with shows, because I'm always
Right.
going to show up for you. When I say something, I'm going to do something. I've flown halfway around the world, even for this show. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, what do you need me to bring? I'm not going to bring anything that I know for myself is going to get stuck in customs. They're going to unpack my bag 1,000. Like, I want to make sure your show, I was putting into work to make sure like that show was going to be the best it could be.
It was great. It was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
So everybody came, they showed out their best. The pictures were amazing. You
Yes.
couldn't tell at the end of the day. Like everybody asked me, they're like, "Oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing."
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you brought models and designers together from multiple continents this season.
Right.
Was it different from previous season, and how does that global representation shape what Accra Fashion Week will be in its 11th year, or what does it unlock for you at Ghana's place in the international fashion conversation?
Okay, so two questions there. The first one is we got slightly over 15 countries as far as designers this year. We almost had 20. I think we had 20, but I need to double check. This would be the second highest number of countries we've brought to Ghana. I think the highest was 30, and that was in 2017. And I feel like this
Huge.
year is going to be more. This year is going to be more. I think there was a second question and it slipped my mind.
Yeah, no. How does
Yeah,
that shape the global representation? Like, if you're even bringing more countries, what does that look like for
Yeah.
Ghana be integral to that fashion conversation?
Well, so my thing is that I've always been about African fashion. Even if anyone goes on Fashion Ghana, you notice that we're a blog that has documented fashion from everywhere, from Burkina Faso to Zambia. You can find there are even options where you can read by the country of articles. So I've always been about that. Accra Fashion Week just happened to be a name that was available when I was ready to start doing fashion shows. It was sitting down there, no one had registered it, and I registered it. Yeah, so, and, all the mainstream fashion shows use the capital of the countries. But it being Accra Fashion Week, I had no intentions of limiting it to designers in Accra or designers in Ghana. Africa is the focus, but we welcome designers from, whether they're from India or China, they're welcome. So I feel like Ghana has always had a Pan-African edge to it. I don't know why, because most of my life I grew up in Ghana, so I'm thinking that it's just normal. And then you kind of see, yeah, and then you see other countries, but you see other countries are very theirs, they're very to themselves. Not every other country, but most countries.
Yeah.
And so it's only now that I'm realizing that Ghana is very Pan-African amongst the attitude of Ghanaians, and I don't know if that has nothing to do with my decision. So it's just a coincidence that I think that way, and I'm also in Ghana. And so when you bring those two coincidences together, I think it's a great segue for Accra Fashion Week to be in Ghana. Well, it will be in Ghana because it's Accra Fashion Week, but it's a great segue for the event that I'm doing to be in Ghana, because at this point in time, Ghana is also becoming this spot that everyone in the diaspora is looking at as a place to come and visit, or as some people say, a gateway to Africa or a safe country in Africa. So I feel like we've already, just based on that, we're in a very, for lack of a better word, a good position. We're in a good position to make a message, to touch on areas that fashion-wise that would be important to other countries, serious topics, even humanitarian issues. Like it's like, if we've got the advantage, then let's make use of it. So I feel like, looking forward, we're going to see a very solid event. I think it's going to be more than a fashion week. It's going to be more of a cultural celebration, and not just Ghanaian culture, but cultures from around the world. That's what I see Accra Fashion Week going into. It's going to go beyond fashion, and it's going to go. I mean, it will be fashion, but then fashion is like either the soul or the heart to culture, So I think that is going to spring all out of Accra Fashion Week in the near future.
No, I agree with you. Like that quote of "It's the gateway to Africa." Kwame Nkrumah, your revolutionary president, rest in peace, is who started that whole. Not started, but it was one of the key leaders of the Big Six that started that whole Pan-African, ideology, revolution, whatever you want to call it, that I live by here in the diaspora as well, right? That's why we all are coming back. I think been a global shift. Africa is being seen, or excuse me, Ghana and the broader Africa and the countries are being seen in a new light, right? The way that we address trade, all the politics stuff, especially Ghana, because the culture of Ghanaian are very welcoming, very hospitable and welcoming. And they've always had that diasporian Pan-African movement to bring people back to, the year of their return, giving people citizenship and things of this nature. I think it's important. And that's even why, like me connecting back to my heritage and making that what I think the future of fashion is going into is the broader storytelling. We know that everything has been kind of whitewashed, right? We bring the raw materials from these countries, India, Asia, Africa, and then we funnel them through the European lens, and then we sell them in the US market, right? That's traditionally how things go, right? And we forget where the raw materials come from, and we say finishing in Europe as a higher standard than these things. But we all know that there's been appropriation and things like that, and it's okay to borrow, but there's a level of appreciation that so you don't become appropriation. That I think is shifting, and I think that's what people want. Things here in the West have become so homogenized, and we're looking to this standard when everyone should be proud of their culture and their heritage, which I think is coming back to fashion and coming back to storytelling. And what tariffs have kind of uncovered is that those brands that kind of just did that without the representation or the attribution to where it comes from, material wise or influence, they're having a hard time because people want authenticity in their fashion. They want to meet the founders. They want to meet the designers. They want to actually see the hands and crafts that are actually making the fashion. So I think you're right. Like storytelling is going to be a huge piece of one, while we do this podcast, while you're branching into other things like the Ghana TV and making more countries visible. One of the videos I didn't get to see, and as I did my whole collection in preparation for your show, was showing that Pan-Africanism connection. So me here being a Black American in the diaspora, connecting Kwame Nkrumah, our U.S. leaders, W. Du Bois, my, all Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, all these leaders that have shaped our American history and the shared history that we have together as Africans and being displaced in the diaspora and those things, and showing how that connects to this and how, fashion's piece in it, right? What we wear has changed over the decades and centuries, and what we're coming back to and what people want to see now. So kudos to you. So
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. With that, do you have like, I know that this will technically be your 11th year. Between now and the anniversary of the 10 years and another successful Fashion Week up and coming, do you have, how do you personally measure progress? Not just visibility, but the infrastructure and creative capacity or the landscape in general?
Okay, so to say one thing, last year was our 10th year, right?
Yep.
This year is our 10th anniversary, right? Because when you start an event, that's your first year.
Yep.
The next year is your first anniversary, right? The following year is the end. So going by that, this would be our 10th year. Next year this year, last year was our 10th year. This year is our 10th anniversary.
Perfect.
So before the event last year happened, I remember asking myself, which one do I want to celebrate? Do I want to celebrate the 10th year or the 10th anniversary, right?
You do both. I like options, but I like both.
Right. And I decided to go with the 10th year because I have this, well, it's not my saying, but it's a popular saying, either now or never. Who knows what will happen next year, and you didn't celebrate, and you don't know what will happen in 2006. So I said, we're going with the 10th year. And being short of what I told you happened, even though people love the event, I think celebrating the 10th anniversary is a way for me to really show it. Yeah. So that is something that, and it's really interesting. When we decided to celebrate our 10th year, almost every other event in Africa came with their years, from Ethiopia to Kenya to name it, everyone. So that was interesting with the influence we had. I'm forgetting these questions. What was the question that followed that,
Yeah. No, it's all good. We're getting some raw commentary from you, so it's good. We're picking your brain. No, it's like, how do you personally measure progress? Like, when you're celebrating this 10-year, year, what does it look like from your point of view?
I think, okay, so this is a very interesting question, and I want to answer it without waffling so much. If you take a lot of music that we used to once listen to that was great, you cannot play it today, and the same people who enjoyed it would be the same amount of people that would enjoy it today. It doesn't mean
we hope not. And so we hope not, if it's like pretty
right.
controversial and people are like thinking, with their
right.
new
Right. I mean, they can tell you it's a good song, but they wouldn't enjoy it like how people enjoyed that music when it came out. I see progress as spontaneous. There are certain things that you can mark progress down with, i.e. the number of people who attend your events, the number of designers that register, the number of media that cover your event. All of these things can be listed down on a list of progress. But I think progress is also you catching up with what is current. If today's sustainable fashion is what is demanded of Africa, and then you act on it, then that is you showing progress. If there is, for example, the issue we talked about with the Pan-African X, Y, and Z, that is a topic at hand, and we embed that into Accra Fashion Week, then that's progress. So I think progress, there's stagnant not stagnant, but there's progress that you can quantify, as we said. But then there's progress that you just have to go with the times and see. So as far as progress, as far as numbers, noise, design, this year has definitely, we've actually progressed almost every year. But I think the what to expect in 2026 is going to be much bigger, because particularly because of the projects that I said that we're also doing. You know, for example, we had the sip and shop this year to make noise about our newly launched shop. The shop is not just a shop in its own entity, and then Accra Fashion Week is in its own entity. This is a chance for us to bridge the two to the point where you go to the event, you see clothes you like, the next day you walk into the shop and it's available to buy. This is something a lot of designers don't get when they go to African fashion shows, having a place to stock your stuff. So this shop is supposed to work hand in hand with the Fashion Week, just as the online TV we're setting up. So there are going to be all these other things that are going to strengthen the Fashion Week, because what we don't want one of those shows where you show and you go home, you show and you go home. Yes, that will happen at times, but whatever is in our power to make the Fashion Week even more relevant to the designers, we plan and we do and we execute.
No, I think it's great. I think you've hit on something core, and I'll talk to you offline. I don't want to give all your secrets away, but I think that you hit on something really core, because I remember when I was doing my research to even partner with you for the show, is like you understood the business of fashion. You understood what the core, and I think we're similar ages where we understand like the core of what a fashion show really means. Now it's democratized in a way where it's great. Everybody can produce a show, you know, everybody gets a little piece of the pie. I don't mind competition. Competition is great because it grows the industry and brings more people in. And as people graduate and understand the business, they'll gravitate to the right shows and they'll get where their end goal is, whatever that may be, right? And that looks different for everyone, and looks different, especially for our generation. And now what Gen Z and Gen Alpha's generation, right? They're able to be instant entrepreneurs, instant influencers without having to go through traditional channels. And so I think that your ability to merge both the shop, so like shopping right after the runway, and then the digital part that you're bringing on, is going to be a huge key to success in launching other brands in Africa. Right. And especially like out of Ghana. And I think that's a huge undertaking, and I'm waiting to see what that looks like, because I think you're right. There needs to be a lot of structures and infrastructure that is just now picking up in a lot of places, specifically Ghana, and specifically around, you know, the continent. So kudos for you, because that's a brilliant idea to make fashion more accessible to not only just, like you said, we do all the expense of traveling to these places and we show, and then nobody can find us afterward. There's a way for people to buy right then and there, or remove the burden of the shipping from you know, Ghana to here, because it's quite expensive from California to Ghana to ship anything. So it's got to be worth it. You know, the ability for designers to maybe ship ahead of time to be able to stock it's so impactful to make that show even better, and then give them a way to get some ROI or early traction for their brand.
Right. You're right. 100%.
Yeah. So what is sustainable? We talk a lot about sustainability, and I, as a designer, have talked about this since it came back in 2016. And when I became, you know, left corporate and sales teams and marketing and all of this to start my brand, I did a lot of research because I didn't want to come into one, fashion, two, specifically swimwear, to be able to just repeat the sins of fashion or just be another polluter, right? So for me, sustainability is always beyond just the fabric. It's the technology, it's how I go about doing business, it's the people that I partner with, it's all the in-between things, not just the fabric or the end things, because there's waste in all things. We can't get away from that. And I think sustainability has been greenwashed a lot. It's been all these different ways to kind of finagle and just become a marketing buzzword. And there's actually some UN goals that talk about sustainability from a much broader perspective, which I appreciate and which I try to live by and lead my teams by. Is more of the hearts and minds and how about people, one, go about producing what they produce. So doing the work that they do, whether it's a physical product or it's, a service, the people that they work with, do they have same ideologies? Are you paying people fair wages, right? And then sustainability is like, how can this continue? So you've been able to continue this for 10 years. So what does that look like from your point of view for sustainability? And what does that look like for you as a producer in a retail store, all these great things, digital media house that you mentioned? What does sustainability look like for you as it relates to fashion in your business?
Well, I think there are various dynamics to sustainability. As far as the show, employment, the logistics of the event, I have a theory that money is just somebody saying thank you for what you've done for me, right? The bigger the thank you, the more money. So we do a calculation of the event, what it costs, and we say, okay, this is what designers are going to pay to register for us to be able to execute this. If we calculate it and then we say, well, designers are not willing to pay this amount because it's too much for them for this, then my next step is to say, okay, what can we add to make this worthwhile for the designers to pay? So that's how we operate, and that's why there have been lots of fashion shows, but usually they go under because most of them are relying on sponsors. We sort of rely on what can we do for the designers that makes them believe that this is worth their while. So in that's how we sustain that process. As far as sustainability in African fashion, I think in a way, Africa doesn't really need to. I want to say this without getting it wrong. We don't need to be so pivotal around sustainability. The whole continent of Africa can swallow almost every other continent in this world, and yet we contribute to only 4% of world pollution as far as sustainability goes, which means that it's kind of like going to dinner with a bunch of friends and they're eating everything and then they're handing you the tab and telling you, oh, you need to pay this. And that's what they're pushing all this sustainability on Africa and Africans when we're contributing so little to world pollution. And I think it is actually a plot to encourage us to keep recycling their rubbish, because as you know, in Africa, there's a lot of secondhand clothing. So they push this campaign that we have to have sustainability. Ghanaians, you need to be sustained. They have their Europeans here telling us to be sustainable or whatever it is that they're saying. But it's just a big business. Secondhand clothing is a big business. It's not a charitable thing that they're doing. They're throwing their clothes, and a lot of African people, when they see this idea of secondhand clothes, they usually imagine the rich European who is looking at us, oh, these poor African kids, let's give them our old shirts. But a lot of times, these are people who are trailer cash Europeans who died in their homes, who got sick, who, their homes got filthy or flooded, and they cleared, and then they wrap it up, and then they ship it to us. And then they don't just ship it out of charity, they're selling it. So they're making billions from selling these used clothes to us. And I have a feeling that with the growth of African fashion, this industry of secondhand clothing is dying. So I believe that the corporates behind it are the ones that are pushing this idea of sustainable, but what they're trying to tell us is sustainable fashion is us recycling because I know sustainable fashion has different messages everywhere else, but when you come to Ghana and people talk about sustainable fashion, 99% of the time they're telling you to recycle. They're saying there's so much pollution in Ghana. You need to recycle and save the planet. The saving the planet is to stop you from sending us your dirty clothes, you know. And I think that's what because there's nothing in the definition of sustainable that says you have to get something from outside of your sphere. Sustaining means you're sustaining what is already within your sphere, you know. So there's a lot of someone would look at the industry and think it's just fashion, but then there's politics involved. And so to me, when I talk about sustainable fashion, I don't think it should be a primary concern for Africans, because if we're such a large continent and we're only contributing 4% to what's going on, then I think sustainable should be pushed on Europeans and Chinese and Indians and those people. I think our primary focus has to be on how we encourage ourselves to support our own fashion, how we make the best out of our business. And then once we start seeing success in our businesses, then we can start deciding how we want to be sustainable. But if we're not being successful and we're now cracking our minds over how to be sustainable, you know, it's I don't think it's a good direction for us to go. But I do think we should always be socially conscious. Like you mentioned things like employing local artisans, that sort of stuff. I do think we should do our best always to follow those sustainable routes.
I think you're right, and you hit on a few things, and I'll kind of take us backwards. So I agree with you. I think a lot of the Western, you know, and even when I learned about it, even, you know, growing up here in America and then seeing it and being able to see more of Africa, you know, we heard about the DRC and all the fights and wars and things like that, and come to find out even there and even now, it's like that is such a wrong perspective, and one that people keep wanting to have of Africa and the continent, and, you know, whichever country. Ghana is one of the ones that they love, especially here in the West, to be able to point to the global trash pollution that has happened, right? You're right. You talked about the global South problem, where all the countries in the global South are getting the West waste, right? So the way that they view us is like, oh, there's so much waste. Ghana is a very clean country. I mean, I didn't have any expectations of what it will be. I'm just going to Ghana. I'm going to go see my family. I'm going to go see my home. I'm going to see all these things and participate in the show. And one of the things I didn't think about when I was there was like, when you think of India, because it's just so prevalent and it's so known, just and I'm just picking on India because I think it's mostly what people think about when they think about it's the population growth and the trash. Ghana is not like that. I haven't been to all 16. Yes, we have human problems just like anybody else. The West has it. I'm in Los Angeles. It's dirty here. Ghana is not like that. It's very clean. And, you know, I wanted to, when I first came, I talked about this and I still talk about this, and I have larger goals for the brand that I'm working on. But even just stopping those agreements and being in politics and being in those discussions where, how are we letting these countries ship trash to us and we're having to recycle and deal with it? Because you're right. Sustainability inherently, we know as, I think, I'm going to say Africans and maybe any other brown cultures compared to many others that I've seen. This is not exclusive. This is not, you know, absolute, because people are people. We have people issues across the world, right? But inherently, growing up Black, brown, African, we inherently kind of recycle things. We only use what we can eat or consume, right? We use things and we recycle them in so many ways, and it's prevalent throughout the way that we live. So yes, there's a way to consume things more consciously. There's a way, and consume could be eat, could be trash, could be make, produce. But yeah, we shouldn't be the standout story because we're taking the waste and finding innovative things to like go and recycle them, or we're not the test bed for these NGOs, and we're not the test bed for the things that they want to throw away, do the bare minimum and go away, right? So I think that you're right. It's social, political. There are some cultural things that happen. There's a lot of different cultures and diversity in Ghana where people, are by the beaches and they've had this lifestyle, and then helping them be more modern, where one is not just for a breeding ground for capitalism where we can just clean up the beach and plop down a hotel. People still inhabit these communities as the beachfront, waterfront communities, the gun communities, the people that own land in Accra and all these places, right? So I think the way that the West views Ghana and Africa is exactly how you mentioned it. It's from a we're trying to help, or woe is me, or look at them, and imposing our ideology when we're already sustainable. And I see it when there's like market days in Ghana where they're saying, oh, we're sustainable. We've got to move beyond that because it is a marketing word. It is being greenwashed. I'm tired of it, even though I champion it, but it has to go beyond the materials because we have the way we're marketing shea butter here in the West. It's sustainable, or even when in Ghana, I seen them on a Ghanaian news station. It's sustainable. Well, we know it's sustainable. You can eat with it, you can cook with it, you can bathe with it, you can make products out of it. It's already sustainable. You don't need to convince what we know comes raw out of the earth and been processed minimally with no chemicals is safe, organic, and sustainable, right? It's naturally occurring in the environment. What we do, the other human activities, are what causes these things not to be sustainable, which causes the pollution, which the U.S. loves their oil, right? We're warring with other countries, Venezuela, to get oil and to do all these things, right? That's how we built this side of the world. So I think you're right. A lot of things need to not be taken on as like the priority for countries or imposed, because you're solving different problems than we have in the West, right? We use the saying, the first world problems, right? We're all worried about the moment our Wi-Fi goes out, when there's different problems in Ghana that need to be solved, right? And it's a modern society, it's an advanced society, there's diversity. So when you talk about diversity and inclusion, you guys got it, right? We only kind of talk around it and really don't demonstrate it. Right. Another thing you said about sustainability from a financial business perspective was really key. Is for me, the fee that I paid to participate in the show was way less. Now, I'm not including my flight, my hotel stay. What you offered is different packages for those that needed it, which is really key. You're putting so much value into the fashion show alone, because the flight to Ghana, many can't, they're exclusive, right? The time alone it takes is exclusive. But the way that you were able to pack so much value in, it made me want to come up with different ideas to support the store, I did a Pulse interview with, Ghana's Pulse news station. I had other advertising things to help promote that show, to get billboards, to do everything I can. And you were able to, especially for somebody new in the environment, doesn't know how to really do business yet, you were able to pack so much where it was like an ecosystem, is which I really think you're building. It's an ecosystem to provide value for this to continue to be bigger than just fashion, because just like Los Angeles, it's a movie industry, but when the movie industry tanks and none of these creatives are working, you're putting out writers, you're putting out dry cleaners, you're putting out carpenters, you're putting out videographers, photographers, models, journalists. You're putting everybody out of work that depends on the industry. So it's not for the designers or, because we're creating stuff and we're having a good time and we're selling things. It goes beyond that. It talks about the ecosystem that relies on these people to exist in order to make it all happen to begin with. And it becomes like LA, a company town, right? Ghana could be, among other things that they do, in very agricultural. It can be, there's been textile companies in Ghana that have gone under, right? That are coming back up, all of these things. So I think it's smart that you're thinking about ways. One, you're looking at the balance sheet at the end of the year. What did we spend? How much did we make? And how can we add more value? And how continue to add more designers and contributors? What does it look like to be sustainable? And then how can we create infrastructure around it that's long lasting beyond just one night, 1 week each year?
I agree.
Yeah, it's really smart, innovative of you. And I think that's, again, why I appreciate you being on this show, because I think that I always like to talk to those thought leaders that are thinking beyond just what they do. Because I always thought, I'm like, okay, I just sell swimsuits, but it's beyond that. It's talking about confidence. It's talking about getting people together, and me being a leader in different Fortune 50s, what you guys would call NGOs. It's like, I've seen it. I've been a leader. I've led teams. I've sold things. I've done my brand the hard way. How do we get beyond just where we are to include more people, to make the infrastructure, to make it bigger than just what I'm doing or what you're doing, right? All right, so we are at the top of the hour. There's a little thing that I'm going to start this year. I'm going to start it with you. Is
Okay.
It's called Hot Tub Confessions. Okay, so we always got to bring it back to your eyes. So because I do swimwear, it's kind of our winter. Even though Southern California, Los Angeles, it's like 80 degrees. It's really nice out today. And the rest of the country, unfortunately, is freezing cold. I don't feel sorry for you. That's why I'm in the West.
In
But
LA.
yeah, I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay. It's freezing over there.
No, it's like 80 degrees.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really nice. So our weather is 77 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's
And what is that? Celsius, that is 25.
I guess that's good, right?
Yeah, it's really good. So in Accra, it's 28 degrees Celsius, right?
Okay.
So you guys are actually warmer than we are, but it's 82 in Accra, so we have similar weather.
Yeah, it's very close.
Mm-hmm. Very similar weather. So yeah, we're tropical over here as well. We just have cold oceans. But there's no, like in Southern California, there's no snow. I think even Northern California right now, the snow is melting in some of the snow regions and mountain towns. But yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice.
I can't do snow. I can't stand snow. No matter how nice they try to make it look in the movies, I can't do snow.
We're people of the sun. We've got to have the heat.
Exactly.
That's just, I'm gonna actually go on the patio after this and like sunbathe because it's just a nice day. Gotta have the heat.
Yeah. That sounds good.
So our hot tub confessions. So if we're like, just imagine we're in a hot tub, you're wearing some nice bold swim, the 2026 collection that's upcoming. What is one thing, I know you've given us a lot of nuggets on sneak peeks of what you're building, what's coming up next, but what would you say is like one thing that we can get a little sneak peek or nugget of that you're doing that's coming this year? What is your hot tub confession?
I think is definitely going to be the TV thing. And I think it's going to be, it's going to be wild because one part of it is me putting myself out there. And I don't know how many times or how often you've been to Ghana, but one thing you know is that some of the things that you mentioned, like Savannah Truth and Mark Lavi and what have you, with the exception of a few people, that's not a very common attribute to Ghanaians here. Like, even though you can say we're Pan-African at heart, we're not walking around having Pan-African or discussions like what happened in Jamaica or the Haiti Revolution. You know, that's not something that's common over here. And I think me putting myself out, touching on these things slightly whilst bringing it back to entertainment, I think that might be something new to take place in Ghana, because in Ghana you have entertainment and people are into entertainment or fashion, and then you have the politicians. You don't have people who are kind of like, okay, I'm gonna speak on the video, but I'm gonna also open up this social issue about it. It's like you're either doing entertainment or you're either a serious person. So I think having that Fashion Ghana TV where we get to have fun on it, talk about fashion, talk about entertainment, talk about style, all whilst grounding it to these kind of core issues, I think that's going to be interesting. For a major part of my career, people don't know me because I don't put myself out there. I'm not an attention type of person. I do the work and I disappear. So I think I don't even know how well I'm going to be in the public light, you know. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be very interesting. And I think we're going to shape Fashion Ghana TV around this sort of entertainment, but food, as they would say in rap, food for the soul. It's going to be entertaining, but it's going to be food for the soul. Yeah. So so I'm looking forward to that. I think that would be my hot tub confession.
I love it. I love it. Thanks for always indulging me. I think it's great. That's one thing that I appreciate about you. Like I could tell, like you, even though we do these things that are very public, we're kind of like the omnivert, right? We're very probably more introverted. Like we don't need the spotlight. We can very much do it if we need to, but that's not why we're doing it. We go do it and then we hide away. But I think that's intentional this year. Like we talked about the transition, and what needs to happen is we need to be the ones telling the story. We're the ones that at the end of the day, and I think it shows up a little differently, but the way you're branching into more media, I think it makes sense for you to be the one telling the story. Just like when I started this, I was the one doing when I started the podcast on Instagram Live, it was me telling the story. I didn't want to be the one showing up on my bikinis on the internet, and I still don't. I'll do the quarterly videos that my people like, and my customers and all my friends, they love it when I show up in the videos, but it's not my core focus to be the marketing, to be the face of the brand. I'll show up for the brand in different ways, but the way I show up is what am I doing behind the scenes that makes the work interesting, why you follow it. Because people can buy swimwear, they can go to any other show, but they show up for you. So I'm glad that you're stepping in front of the camera this year. You and I will be accountability buddies, because if I don't see you, I will be like, Nana, you need to be doing record. I don't care how it looks. I started cringe. I had, these things. And of course the work, the success comes, right? The overnight success, 10 years later, 11 years later, right? All these billboards, press, right? You just got Vogue Italia. I was one of the brands featured with you. So it's the thing that they also need to see who's behind it, because they follow people, not necessarily the brands. And that the new generation is so key on like, who am I talking to? What is the thought process behind the brand? And what is even if you don't agree 100% politically, whatever, what I'm saying, you can understand and then make a decision for yourself. And that's the most that you can do for anybody, right? Present them with a different perspective, a different point of view. And like you're saying, you're blending either the far left with just the media and the entertainment, or the far left of or far right of the political scene, and then kind of merging it so it's mainstream conversation.
Right. Yeah, definitely. No, that's definitely what I feel is needed. Because to me, it was very inconvenient, because a lot of people who do projects similar to me, whether it's the blog or Fashion Week, you'll see them everywhere on the red carpet, CEO of this, CEO of that. And I've technically not done that. I only started putting my face out like last year. It was inconvenient of me to do it. One, because I didn't see any value in doing it. Two, because sometimes I just want to walk out my place dressed anyhow I want to dress, and I don't want someone like, hey, that's the Accra Fashion Week organizer. It allows me to be who I am. Talk to who I want to whenever I want to. So, but it's a new day and age right now with all you see on TikTok and influencers and people who have to put their face out there, especially having the shop that we've just launched. So I think all of these things are demanding that, I have to. And one reason why it was also good for me when I wasn't putting my face out there, because I've also noticed, could be the world, but in Ghana, a lot of times when people have big things and their face is everywhere, their audience or their clientele or their support is attached to who likes them. So if you come up and you are an a-hole, then no one now wants to mess with your event or your media. So I think by not putting a face out there, people would apply to Accra Fashion Week, not like, let me apply to Nana's show. They'll be like, let me apply to Accra Fashion Week. They'll see it as a company and apply. But the more I'm out there, it means that if I wake up and I say something maybe bad about a celebrity tomorrow, and she has a large following, and then that following might say, oh, well, I don't want to support Accra Fashion Week anymore. Then it becomes a personal event. And so that's kind of why I've been comfortable not putting my face out there. But hopefully I'll be able to do it and keep it and still keep it separate. Let's see how it goes.
I think you'll do well. I think what I've learned along the way is I try to not get too far into politicals. I think that, or into giving my haters so much credibility, or, a louder voice than they need.
Right.
The first time I did it, I had zero people. It was just me talking to myself in my studio, just getting it together. And what I turned out to be is like, I'm showing up for myself. I'm going to do this regardless. Whether people just don't like me because they just don't like me, and I'm not trying to please everybody. I know people don't like me, and I don't care. Right? That's not what motivates me to get up. And I get what you mean, like having some energy, but at the same time, like, I'm doing this for the other people that need me, because there are some people that have cried over me them purchasing a bikini. So I'm doing them and what I initially started the business for. So I think along the way, you'll get more comfortable with doing that. You'll show up differently. You'll show up for your brand, and you'll navigate that space of, because Ghana is small, right? It's big, but it's small. And even Los Angeles, it's big, but it's small. If I walk around too many times saying too many things, you'll step on a lot of toes. But you, as a business person, you learn how to navigate those things. And who's for you will be for you, right? What is for you can't be stopped by one person's following. And then if people want to gravitate to one voice, let them do that, because the rest of the follower and the rest of the world is open, and they're receptive to what I have to say. You can hate me. And the funniest thing is, even when I had to start my Instagram page over, I had a good following, and because I was offloading and kind of rechanging the brand, because I had gone off Instagram so long, I had to start over.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I have to start completely over my following. And I was like, that's good, right? Because a lot of dead weight, a lot of people that were just looky-loos or not really following, but you're still watching me, right? I'm still showing up. And so I think if I'm going to give any credence to my haters, is like, yeah, I'm still here. You guys are closing. You're selling to me. I'm still making money. I'm still innovating. I'm still pivoting. I'm still finding a way through, because I know what I started with, and the intentions that I have are pure. And all of the rest of the stuff, you looking at yourself, you recording in the middle of the night, in the middle of the day, whatever your schedule, all the time.
Yeah.
At least you don't have to put on makeup, Nana. At least you just wear. I think you're trading. Like, I have to make sure my hair is done. It's a whole thing. So I'm like you, but I have to think about what community. If I'm a designer, when I go out, I kind of have to look like a designer, because I know somebody's going to say, and if any course of my journey happens, me talking about my brand, and then they look at me like, you're dressed like you just rolled out of somewhere, right? Off the street. Why would I follow you as a designer? Like, so I understand what that looks like. And, fashion to me is comfort. So I like to show up bold. I like to show up with colors. But I also recognize that, I'm a designer. I need to kind of put a little bit more design effort, whatever that looks like for me. I don't have to be like everybody's adorned in these, ornate things, but I need to represent my brand, my business, myself. Over time, people are just going to recognize you, because they gravitate to you. They want to see you. They want to hear from Nana and why this makes the show a show. And like, even being personable without being too personable, right? I remember I went around the world, and I've done all this press, and I've done all these big press magazines and things, and people were like, oh, I know you. And I'm like, no, you don't. I'm like, sure, you just be pleasant. And then they tell me something core, and they're not just feeding my ego, because I don't need that. And I was like, oh, you really do follow the brand. And I was like, it's humbling. It's really humbling, because you think that nobody's watching, nobody cares. And which is great in a way, because most people don't. They care about themselves, but it gives you a way to reinvent yourself, and as you're starting out new, to reinvent it to make it better. So I think it's great.
I agree with that. And I think that's going to be one experience, and I think doing it will definitely shed a new light to the whole fashion week, and the blog, I think maybe it's time to let people know, okay, we're the guys behind these events, and then see where it goes from there.
I think you'll do great. I had an opportunity to divert and do Accra Fashion Week and Afrofuture. And then it came down to kind of the things that we mentioned, sponsorships and them trying to probably figure out their show. And then the activation that I wanted, they're trying to figure out how to work in the show. And then, I think other priorities took precedent, and it was fine because I think giving focus and wanting to do my best for Accra Fashion Week was the right choice. And
Right.
I'm always here to support you as founder to founder, as a designer, all these things. Like I said, I have business in Accra. I'll be going back in July. I have a team that I'm working on there. I'm breaking ground on factories that I'm trying to not only produce internally, but also bring employment to the state, the country. Lots of things I have in the work. So I think that, you partner with a model agency, all these things that, given my background, given your experience and knowledge, I think that I'm here to support you in any way possible. So I appreciate you for being the first guest on our show this
Wow.
season. Yeah, number one. I had to start with you.
In 2026 or first guest period?
First year, 2026.
Okay. So I'm not the first. I'm the first in 2026. Okay.
First in 2026, first video guest.
Yeah.
And first one coming off a major point for the brand as well. So I had to start with you. It just made sense. People are still talking about Accra Fashion Week. I'm still getting
wow.
that, so I'm referring them and they're asking me all about it. So absolutely.
Wow. Definitely.
All to you. All to you. So tell everybody where they can meet you or find you online, your Instagram handle. I'll put all of that in the show notes, but just put it on video.
Okay, so Instagram handle is fashionghana.com _. We've got quite a few. There's also fashionghana.tv. There's fashionghana.shop. And then there's Accra Fashion Week. So of all of those handles, you can probably interact and find the other ones in the bios. The website, www.fashionghana.com. That's where we're trying to make sure everything goes. I don't want to rely on social media so much. I mentioned that we had 1 million followers on Facebook. It was so organic. People were loving it. We had people from Egypt, Cape Verde, all coming to our page. And then all of a sudden in 1 year, boom, our views just went down. Our likes just went down. All this algorithm, all the people from US and UK who were following us, we weren't seeing their replies. We were only seeing people from Ghana. Sometimes we message people some years later and they would be like, oh, we thought you guys didn't exist anymore. So now we just try to do as much as we can to encourage people to interact with us or our stories through our website, www.fashionghana.com. They can't take that away from us. Find us on all the social media platforms as well. Accra Fashion Week and Fashion Ghana.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Nana, for the conversation. And like you said, social media likes, they're all fake, guys. The algorithms be damned. I think that long form is coming back, writing more, bloggers that, we're kind of like a little old school. We used to write and do both. We started the internet generation. So we're able to do both, and we're able to do it at lightning speed. So I think that you'll be just fine. And I can't wait to share this episode with everyone.
Very much. Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Amazing.
I appreciate the time and I appreciate your work with the blog. And I can't wait for you to upload it so I can watch it before I share it. Check if I did well, and then I'll share it.
No, you did perfectly.